The rain hammered against the windows of Sterling Motors as Elena Carter stared at the ruined classic car inside her private garage. The CEO had spent nearly $2 million restoring the 1967 Mustang, yet 3 renowned mechanics had declared it beyond repair. Elena refused to accept that answer. The Mustang belonged to her late father, the man who had taught her everything about business, courage, and loyalty. For years, Eleanor had dreamed of hearing its engine again. Now the car sat silent beneath bright workshop lights, covered in expensive equipment and surrounded by disappointed engineers. "It can't be fixed," the lead mechanic finally said. Elena slowly turned toward him. "Everything can be fixed." He shook his head and explained that the electrical system had been damaged beyond recovery. Replacing it would destroy the car's original configuration. Elena looked at the Mustang, feeling her father's memory slipping away. Across town, Daniel Brooks was finishing another exhausting day at his small neighborhood garage. Daniel was a single father raising his 8-year-old daughter, Mia. Money was always tight, but he never complained. He worked from sunrise until evening, then hurried home to cook dinner and help Mia with homework. That evening, Daniel received a strange phone call from an old customer who mentioned Eleanor's Mustang. Daniel knew the model immediately. He had studied its original engineering for years and recognized a rare problem that most modern mechanics overlooked. The customer asked whether Daniel wanted to examine it. The following morning, Daniel arrived at Sterling Motors wearing faded jeans, a simple work shirt, and an old leather tool belt. Security nearly stopped him at the entrance. Elena appeared herself, surprised by his appearance. "You're the mechanic?" she asked. Daniel smiled politely. "That depends. Are you willing to listen?" Elena led him inside, where 3 engineers watched with folded arms. Daniel walked around the Mustang without touching it. He examined the wiring, studied the engine compartment, and listened carefully as Elena explained what had happened. After several minutes, he quietly asked for a flashlight and an old screwdriver. One engineer laughed. "You think those tools can accomplish what our diagnostic machines couldn't?" Daniel ignored him. He carefully removed a small panel beneath the dashboard. Inside, he discovered a handmade modification that Elena's father had installed decades earlier. Daniel's eyes widened. "Your father changed something very important here." Elena immediately stepped closer. Daniel explained that the modification had been designed to protect the original electrical system from voltage spikes. During restoration, someone had unknowingly bypassed the protection. The modern diagnostic computer interpreted the resulting signal as a catastrophic failure. The Mustang was not dead. It had simply been misunderstood. The engineers became silent. Daniel requested 3 inexpensive components and a soldering station. Elena hesitated. She had already spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on failed repairs. Daniel noticed her uncertainty and said, "You don't need to trust me. Just watch what happens." Elena nodded, giving him permission to continue. For nearly an hour, Daniel worked patiently. He did not rush or show off. Every movement was deliberate. Mia's photograph sat inside his toolbox, reminding him why he worked so hard every day. Finally, Daniel reconnected the final wire, stepped backward, and asked Elena to turn the ignition key. Nothing happened. The engineers exchanged knowing looks. Elena's face fell. Daniel remained calm. "Try again." Elena turned the key once more. A faint click came from beneath the dashboard. Then the engine coughed. Everyone froze. Daniel looked toward Elena and said, "One more time." She turned the key again, and the Mustang roared awake. The garage erupted with disbelief. Elena covered her mouth as tears filled her eyes. The familiar rumble sounded exactly like the car she remembered from childhood. Daniel simply smiled and began checking the gauges. One engineer stared at him and whispered, "How did you know?" Daniel answered, "I listened before touching anything." Elena walked around the Mustang slowly, remembering her father driving her through Chicago streets when she was a little girl. She had forgotten the exact sound of the engine until that moment. Daniel had not merely repaired a machine, he had restored a memory that money could never replace. Elena offered Daniel a huge financial reward, but he refused to name a price. "Pay me what the work is worth," he said. She looked surprised. "You just saved a $2 million restoration." Daniel shrugged. "Your father saved something too. He built this car to be understood, not replaced. I respected that." That answer changed Elena's opinion of him completely. She later learned about Daniel's garage, his daughter, and the sacrifices he made to keep their lives stable. She discovered that he often repaired cars for elderly customers at reduced prices. Daniel never advertised his kindness. He simply believed people deserved help. Elena decided to visit Daniel's garage a week later. Instead of arriving with assistants and luxury vehicles, she came alone. Mia was doing homework near the counter when Elena entered. Daniel looked surprised. Elena smiled and said, "I came to offer you something." Mia immediately looked up, curious about the unexpected visitor. Elena offered Daniel a partnership in a new restoration division, giving him complete creative control and a generous salary. Daniel hesitated because he feared losing the small garage where customers knew him personally. Elena understood. Instead of demanding an answer, she proposed something different. Daniel could keep his garage and lead the division. Daniel accepted after realizing the opportunity could provide Mia with security without forcing him to abandon his principles. Months later, Sterling Motors announced the launch of a specialized classic restoration program. Collectors immediately became interested because Daniel's philosophy was simple: preserve history instead of hiding it beneath modern perfection. The 1967 Mustang became the company's first showcase restoration. Elena displayed it at a major automotive event in Chicago, where thousands of visitors gathered. When journalists asked who had saved the legendary car, Elena pointed toward Daniel, standing quietly beside Mia. He listened when everyone else only looked. Daniel became known throughout the restoration world, but fame never changed him. He still returned home every evening, helped Mia with homework, and opened his neighborhood garage whenever someone genuinely needed assistance. Elena eventually became one of his closest friends, learning that success was not measured by money, titles, or recognition. Years later, Elena still kept the Mustang in her private collection. Whenever she started its engine, she remembered the day everyone had declared it impossible. She remembered Daniel arriving with simple tools and extraordinary patience. Most importantly, she remembered the lesson he had taught her. Sometimes something isn't broken. Sometimes it simply needs someone willing to understand it. And Daniel never forgot that rainy morning either. The single father, who had once worried about paying his bills, had become one of America's most respected restoration experts. Yet whenever someone praised his talent, he always smiled and gave the same answer: "I didn't perform a miracle. I just refused to give up."